Today's segment of Sound Balming is brought to you by Jimmy and Mary's Authentic Body Care. I cannot express to you how much we love their products. Although we use them all year, as the weather gets colder, we need these products even more. The dreaded drop in temperature, the dryness, the itchiness, and the unnecessary flakiness is inevitable. Shea Butter from Jimmy and Mary's Authentic Body Care is the only thing that works for my skin and hair needs. Not only do these products cure my dry skin, the whipped butter goes on smoothly and doesn't leave that uncomfortably thick, sticky residue. Bonus? It smells absolutely amazing. There are so many different scents to choose from too. Not only do they carry skincare products, there are products for authentic living, face, shower, hair and beard, spritzers and perfumes, and bath products. Let me tell you, we cannot even keep the stuff in the studio. The entire production team as well as all our children use Jimmy and Mary's product. Jimmy and Mary's take pride in creating quality, handcrafted products from simple ingredients for the entire family. Their products are made for all skin types and are 100% handmade, 100% vegan, and 100% cruelty-free. Skincare is important. Moisture is key, and keeping our skin and hair hydrated is essential. I cannot emphasize how much we trust Jimmy and Mary's for all of our skincare needs. Hurry on up to jimmyandmarys.com and check out their products. Did I mention service is fast and efficient too? Don't forget to mention that you heard about Jimmy and Mary's Authentic Skincare on Sound Balming. Use the discount code SOUNDBALM20 to get 15% off. That's SOUNDBALM20 for 15% off at Jimmy and Mary's Authentic Skincare.
Hey everybody, welcome to Sound Bombing. I created this show for people who want to experience a radical, life-changing journey through the sounds of my diverse guests. I hope that each sound you hear on this show will strengthen your faith, encourage your dreams, and challenge you to awaken the greatness within you.
Drop the bombs. Drop the bomb. We're gonna drop the bomb. Drop the bomb. We're gonna drop the bomb. Drop the bomb. We come to drop the bomb. Drop the bomb.
This is a journey into sound. A journey which along the way will bring to you new color, new dimension, new values, and a new experience.
Darnell Shields.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the time of the day it is, you're with me. Yes, I am Dr. Lamar Darnell Shields, the creator of Sound Bombing. And my goal with this show is to introduce you to people with ideas that will help you unlock your full potential. Now, many of us have seen tons of TV shows, films, read stories about something called hypnosis. Now listen, when we had our first, second, and third child, we went to Hypno-Therapy to help the mom deliver these three beautiful babies that I have right now. And that was my first introduction into hypnosis, really, and hypnotherapy and how it works and how you use it to engage your body and the type of breathing and things of that nature. So it's brand new to me. So I'm sure you got a lot of questions about hypnosis because so many people sent so many things in it. So you can guess right now, today we're going to talk about hypnosis. Hypnosis is perhaps one of the most misunderstood and controversial methods of psychological treatment. The myths and misconceptions that surround hypnotherapy and hypnosis mostly stem from people's ideas about the stage hypnotism and their confusion. Is it fake? Is it real? Who knows? We're going to find out today. The truth is that the stage hypnotism is essentially, sometimes can be a theatrical performance. And that's about as much in common with bona fide clinical hypnosis as some maybe Hollywood movies have in real life. We're going to find that out today. The fact is, however, that hypnosis is a genuine psychological phenomenon that has valid uses in clinical practice. Simply put, Hypnosis is a state of highly focused attention or concentration, often associated with relaxation or heightened suggestibility. While under hypnosis, i.e. in a hypnotic trance, it seems many people are much more often to helpful suggestions than there usually are. To learn the facts and the fiction about hypnosis, I invited John Moyer to the show. You see, because John is a world-class comedy hypnosis who has been mesmerizing audiences with his hilarious, yes, hilarious, because I've checked him out and my producers wanted to make sure, as MC Hammer said, too legit to quit. Want to make sure he's legit. His interactive comedy routines and comedy hypnosis shows have been lasting over 20 plus years with hundreds of stage performances to his credit. John's hypnotism shows combine unusual, thought-provoking demonstrations with the unpredictability of audience volunteers in a light-hearted, humorous manner. John Moyer, welcome to Sound Bombing, brother. Let our listeners know where you are calling from, and also let's do a wellness check-in. How are you doing?
I am doing good, Dr. Shields. Thank you so much for having me. That I got to say, I love your energy. That's the kind of energy I love to hear first thing in the morning. And it's, a friend of mine always has a saying. He says, energy doesn't lie. And, you talk to a lot of people. I have the opportunity to do this. And sometimes there's people that feel like they phoned it in, but yeah, brother, you're bringing the energy that I feel. So I appreciate it. And I am just outside of Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm about 20 minutes south, a little town called Lehi, Utah, which is actually the fastest growing city in Utah. We have a ton of big companies and corporations are building their businesses here. So it's been a great place to be.
Well, hey, John, I've been to Utah, and Utah actually also have more vegan restaurants per capita than the great New York City. I'm not from New York, but I'm from Chicago. So I've been a vegan. My motto is meat free since '93. So when I went to Utah, of course, hung out with the Mormon brothers and sisters in the city. Actually, the first place in the city where I saw, the scooters, the electric scooters. I had never seen the electric scooters in any major city. Go to Utah. And I guess those Mormons need to go back and forth to the temple, man. They need to move around. So they said, hey, we need to create these scooters. And so I was out there hanging out, but the vegan restaurants were amazing. Really blew me away. I mean, I was really surprised when I found that out, because again, I like to find good food in good places. So I've been to your place before. I've been to Utah.
And that's the thing. I actually grew up on the East Coast. I grew outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Wow. Right. So I'm used to that East Coast energy and that East Coast, the culture, right? Because it's just such a big cultural melting pot. And that's what I love about Salt Lake is that there's something for everybody. There's great nightlife. There's great restaurants. And it really is it's a cultural hotspot to check out. If anybody has a chance to go skiing, hang out in Salt Lake for a while.
Yes, I would. Concur. I will definitely support that message from my brother John. So, man, I got a lot of questions to ask you because my listeners sent in several questions, and my children also wanted to know some things. Now, you are a professional hypnotist and a comedian, okay? So what initially sparked your interest in hypnosis and took you down this successful career path?
It's kind of a wild story. I had done stand-up comedy for over 20 years. That was my thing. That was my passion, in the entertainment industry and outside of just live performance. I had written some feature-length comedy scripts that were produced into feature-length independent movies. Those are some of the movies in the background back there. But live performance was always my thing. Being on stage, connecting with audiences and making them laugh. But there was a real kind of an interesting shift in stand-up comedy in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, where the business of stand-up comedy had kind of changed, especially when it came to the live clubs. We saw a lot of live clubs kind of closing their doors. It went from a lot of these freestanding comedy clubs that were open Tuesday through Saturday or Tuesday through Sunday or whatever the case may be, to a lot of it more just becoming some bar or restaurant with a back room doing a comedy night on a, Friday or Saturday night. So I watched the business model of it change. And obviously that was affecting, what was happening for me going out and performing. Now, I had always had a fascination with the mind. I was always interested in how you can tap into the mind for better performance, whatever the case may be. And I was doing an event maybe 12 years ago, and it was a multi performance event where there were different things happening. Now, I did my show when I was doing my stand-up comedy show. The venue was probably about 3/4 of the room full. Okay. Well, after me, I didn't know this, there was a stage hypnotist going to go up and do a show after me. So I'm like, I stuck around and watched that. So now I had about 3/4 of the seats full. This stage hypnotist, man, it was standing room only, probably 5, 6, 7 people deep outside of this venue to watch. And now I'm watching this, and I'm watching the audience is excited. Volunteers on the stage are excited. Interesting things are happening. And then afterwards, he was selling CDs, hypnotherapy CDs, quit smoking, weight loss, and all of that. And man, people were just throwing money hand over fist to buy his CDs. And I said, you know what? I got to make a change. This seems interesting. This seems like something I could actually do and make a pretty good living at. So what I did is I went and I trained in stage hypnosis first. And then I went back to all of my entertainment contacts, the bookers, clubs, agencies. And I said, hey, guess what? I got a new act. I'm doing something completely unique and different. And man, it just took off. I was getting more corporate bookings, but I expanded my audience too, because now I was performing for colleges. I was performing for high schools. I wound up performing as a guest entertainer for Royal Caribbean Cruise Line. And this all happened within just a span of a few years, where I was doing comedy since, 1993, 1994. Then all of a sudden, boom, everything just took off. And I wound up retiring from stand-up comedy because I was having so much fun doing so much with the stage hypnosis. But the thing about it is I'm thinking, okay, well, if this can help people laugh, if this can make people entertained for a few minutes, and I'm seeing the results from what's happening on stage, because I would always give people a post-hypnotic suggestion. If you're looking to achieve a goal, if you're looking to change something, if you're looking to make a difference, well, you can do this. And then I would hear from people afterwards, like, I wasn't going to volunteer on stage, but one of the things that you said was that you were going to help us achieve our goals. So that's what motivated me to come up and be part of your show. I remember a woman I talked to on the cruise ship. She said, I am a chocoholic. That is my problem. I eat entirely too much chocolate. I was not going to volunteer for this show. And then you said you could help me with my goals. That was the thing that brought me up on stage. And she said, it's been 3 days now. I haven't had any chocolate since. I haven't even had a desire to eat chocolate. She goes, my friends can't even believe it. So I began to see the long-term potential for people. So as a result, I wound up creating a YouTube channel where I would put my hypnosis programs on. And man, subsequently, that wound up exploding and that wound up blowing up. And people began to go to my YouTube channel for the things that they were looking for hypnosis.
So it's interesting. I'm going to give you a cheat sheet. You're looking at someone who was married to a comedian, who's been on the road. My children were on the road. I'm listening to you. I'm getting anxiety right now. Those days being on the road with my children in those comedy clubs, the profanity, the slurs, and her comedy. Her comedy was clean. So you sort of made it's interesting to listen to you, man. I'm like, okay, I remember those days.
Yeah.
With no hypnotism, dude. I mean, man, her comedy was hypnotizing people, but there was no hypnotism. So what's happening? Let's go deep. Because I'm a researcher, man. I love brain research. I love stand-up comedy. You and I are probably going to talk forever. Explain to my audience of what's happening to the mind of a hypnotized person. And is it true people under hypnosis are in total control of themselves and would never really do anything normally they wouldn't do on their own?
Yeah, well, let's break that up into two parts. We'll go with the first part first. First of all, what's happening is your brain is going from what's called you're in the beta brainwave state, right? That's where we spend most of our waking time during the day. We're alert, we're focused, we know what's going, that's our active moving around our day brainwave state. Well, what happens under hypnosis is your brainwave states are actually slowing down. So you're going from that beta brainwave state, kind of slowing down into an alpha and then down into a theta brainwave state. And alpha and theta is kind of where we drift in and out with hypnosis. And then we actually pass through that, before we go to sleep. So with hypnosis, you're actually slowing the brain waves down. And there's some things that's going on is you're actually within that state, you're accessing the subconscious mind. Now, the analogy that I use between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, there's what we call I liken it to like the bouncer with a velvet rope at the nightclub, right? What it is, it's kind of a part of the brain that's responsible for protecting the subconscious mind that doesn't like new information coming into the subconscious mind. So what happens is with hypnosis, you're distracting that bouncer with the red velvet rope. The official term is the critical faculty. So it's the critical faculty guarding the subconscious mind. But you're distracting that bouncer with a red velvet rope. So then you could just pass information in behind its back to the subconscious mind, because the subconscious mind is very protective of itself. It's lazy. It doesn't want new information to come in. It's like, we just want to keep doing the same old. It's like where they say 21 days to make a habit. So with hypnosis, you're kind of speeding that process up. You're distracting the critical faculty and you're just launching that new information into the subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind picks it up and can begin to make an immediate change. Now, talking about being in control, we do have kind of an overall firewall system that protects us, if we will. So if there's a suggestion that enters into the subconscious mind that truly goes against our core principles of morality or whatever the case may be, our core principles are so strong that something's not going to be able to override that. So I can't tell somebody or hypnotize somebody, say, you're going to go in and rob a bank. Unless, of course, they actually are a bank robber, that they would probably do that. So that's the one thing. You're not going to lose control. You're not going to become, the antithesis of, who you are, morally, or what your moral beliefs are. So
can anyone be hypnotized?
We all go through hypnosis every single day. It's a built-in operational state of the human mind. And some of the examples I use, it's like you've been driving down the road, right? It's like you've been lost in thought, then all of a sudden you get home and you're like, how did I do that? Right. That's a form of hypnosis. Or you haven't been trying
highway, they call it
highway hypnosis.
I learned that when I was a ninth grader in my psychology class. Like all of us, we take that one psychology class. I want to be a psychologist right now.
Yeah.
I know it's a little harder than that, but I remember the one thing I do remember is that what they would call highway hypnosis.
Highway hypnosis. That's an example of what we go through every day. Or it's like you're trying to talk to your kids and they're staring at the phone and they have no idea that you're there, that you're trying to have a conversation with them. That's a form of hypnosis. It's like when we're so focused on something, it's almost like we're lost in thought, but there's a thought happening there and we're oblivious to everything else, around them. And that's what happens when I get people up on stage is, you get them to zero in, you get them to focus, and they actually are able to kind of quiet everything else that's happening around them. So everything else around them is they're oblivious to that. And they're just right there in that alpha beta or alpha theta brainwave state, focused within, and that's where the magic happens.
So can someone get stuck in hypnosis?
No, absolutely not. And it's funny because normally people do ask that, right? And I normally will tell people, the only time I tell people that is if I'm doing a show for high school kids, right? Because the high school kids are the ones, sometimes you'll get a high school kid up there who's like, oh, I'm the center of attention. I'm going to make this look good. And he or she, they might try to fake like they're stuck and they can't get out. But so I always tell high school kids, never in the history of humanity, going as far back as we've researched this, back to the ancient Egyptians, the ancient Greece, the ancient Romans, you can't get stuck in hypnosis. It's not going to happen. I always put that out there as a qualifier for for the high school kid who thinks, oh, I'm going to have some fun here. And
so John, I'm glad that you brought up high school. I want to move to a more serious note and then come back to some laughter. I don't know if you're familiar with the case that took place in Florida some years ago. I want to say like 2011, where a school board announced, over $600,000 settlement involving a high school principal who hypnotized dozens of students with the parent permission. Yeah. And then what happened is families of some of the deceased students filed a wrongful lawsuit. As a result of this settlement, they received hundreds of thousands of dollars. What are some of your thoughts? Are you familiar with the case?
Yeah.
And then what are your thoughts about that? This principal decided that he wanted to hypnotize these young people, and then these deaths came out of this, these suicides.
Yeah, well, if I'm remembering the story correctly, I remember there was a principal that that was doing it, and it sounded to me as if I'm recalling it that he had, obviously had good intentions. What was his full background? What was his training? Was it enough that, everybody could say, hey, we're feeling good about going in here and, and we're doing this. And if I'm remembering the story correctly, there were some kids that were trying to do it outside, on their own. And they were, I think they put something in, or they were listening to something, while they were driving or something like that. And that's where it gets, that's where the challenge is because there is this mysteriousness to it where, and it becomes a hotbed news topic where, man, if something tragically happens, if something goes wrong, everybody says, okay, well, we want to take this back. We want to blame it, on the hypnosis or whatever the case may be. And the thing that I say, especially when it comes to stuff with high schools, you got to go above and beyond to make sure that the people that are being involved truly know what they're doing. And it's not just like they were watching some YouTube videos or read a few books and thought it would be a good idea to come out and practice this. And then, of course, making sure that parents are aware that, if I go into lots of times when I go in and have done high school shows, and when I go in and do high school shows, they're not necessarily like, I think he was working with the sports teams.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
And you're right on point, John. So George Kinney, he's a principal of North Point High School in Sarasota. And what it is he hypnotized more than 70 students to help them calm their anxieties and improve the performance you write in sport. So he did have permission, but you're right. These kids tried it on their own. And so I just want to just sort of talk about that because, again, you've moved from the stand-up comedy world where, you're 21 over, you come in, you drink, you do whatever. Yeah. And then hopefully nobody's going out and think because you talked about them that they're going to hurt themselves. Right. How was that transition going from the stand-up world, being in the comedy clubs, and then now being on stages, and then also being in corporate America working with these professionals? And then what are some of the things that you're learning about people that maybe all those people have in common?
Well, the transition for me, one of the things I said about when I was doing stand-up comedy was that, one of the things I learned at film school when it came to writing was that all good drama is conflict, right? There's not going to be any interesting story in Star Wars if Princess Leia wasn't captured and there was the threat of the Death Star. So I looked at that as my personal life where it was like, man, if all drama is conflict, the more conflict I have, the more drama I have, the more that I can make fun of on stage. And so I was kind of this angry comedian that was out there complaining about stuff in my personal life, complaining about stuff that I saw, which was doing great for stand-up comedy. But personally, I was unhappy. So when I made the shift from stand-up comedy to hypnosis, well, that was changing me personally as well, because I was doing a self-hypnosis meditation every day. And so I let go of that old version of me, that old self of me that was, the angry person, because I was seeing, more positive things in my life. So when I would go, especially when I was doing, when I started to do the hypnosis, I wanted to let people know this is going to be an edifying experience for you. This is going to be a positive experience for you. We're not up here to laugh at you. We're not up here to make you the focal point of something that's going to be, embarrassing for you. We're here so everybody has a good time and they can see how powerful, the mind works. Now, obviously people do silly and goofy and fun stuff on stage, but those are people that probably typically, would like that don't mind, being the outgoing person, when they're up there. So I wanted to frame everything, especially that's why I got done with stand-up comedy, hanging out in the bars and the comedy clubs, because I wanted to be in that environment where it was an edifying experience for people.
So I heard you use two words sort of simultaneously. I'm an avid meditator. So you talked about meditation and self-hypnosis. Mm-hmm. Is there a difference between the two of those? Because then you also talked about my running joke is I tell folks when I really got into meditation, maybe about 6 or 7 years ago, and I said I didn't realize I was on my way to guru status. I was in the second grade, and I didn't realize I was meditating. People call it daydreaming, and I said I was on my way to guru status, but Miss Hawthorne told me, Lamar Shields, pay attention, and then I sort of snapped out of it. So is there a connection between, or are they similar? Are they the same? Are they different? Meditation and self-hypnosis?
Yeah, first of all, there's sister states of mind, right? Or cousin states of mind, because you're going from a beta brainwave state down into the alpha and theta brainwave state. So you're having similar things.
Now let's make that plain for the people that don't know what the hell you're talking about.
So that beta brainwave state, that's where we're at most of the time. That's during the day, we're conscious, we're aware, paying attention, making decisions. When you slow it down from that beta brainwave state down into the alpha and the theta, that's kind of that dreamy state of consciousness. You're really relaxed. You're feeling good. It's right before you kind of, you fall asleep. And so that's what's happening with your brainwave states, both when it comes to hypnosis and both when it comes to meditation. You're slowing your brainwave states down, and consequently, the things that are going on with your body are the same too. You're feeling more relaxed. Your breathing slowing down. Your heart rate's slowing down. You're getting a boost of dopamine. You're getting a boost of endorphins. You're getting a boost of antioxidants. So that's what's going on. Now, when it comes to meditation, there is the mindset, the philosophy, or the track of clearing your mind and letting go of that. And that has an incredibly useful purpose. I never would have thought, for me, if you told me I'd be sitting in the lotus position, in those beta brainwave or in those alpha and theta brainwave states, literally clearing the mind, focusing on one thing and not, just paying attention to anything else, I never would have thought that would be possible. Now, when you're doing the self-hypnosis, if you will, you're in that same physical and mental state. But now what you're doing is you're inputting some information into the subconscious mind. So whereas one, it's like you're just kind of turning the engine off, giving the engine a break. The other one is you're turning the engine off, giving it a break, but maybe you're also fitting it with some aftermarket parts, right? You're giving it an upgrade. So that's one of the things. So you're tapping into the highly suggestible state of the subconscious mind. And then you're telling somebody, hey, you really do feel like working out. You really do feel like, eating less. You really are feeling more relaxed. You are feeling less stressed. So whatever that object is that somebody's looking to achieve, change the wiring up in their subconscious mind. That's what's kind of happening relative to hypnosis or self-hypnosis. And you hear a lot of different terms out there now. You hear like guided meditation is another big word, or not necessarily big word, but a word that I'm hearing out there. And a lot of it's kind of a little bit like self-hypnosis too. It's somebody's speaking, somebody's guiding you through, and maybe even inputting some suggestions relative to relaxation or whatever the case may be.
So what are some of the benefits of experiencing hypnosis outside of just a shift in thinking? And then how can hypnosis benefit the physical body as well?
Well, that's actually was going to point to was what happens with the physical body, because you're relaxing your physical body. So what's happening is you're reducing cortisol in the physical body during those states. And of course, that's the stress hormone, right? Cortisol can be kind of a destructive thing for our body because it's based on the fight or flight. It was based to, it was there to give us that energy and that ability to be able to flee something. So we're reducing cortisol. We're also boosting our immune systems. You actually get an incredible boost of antioxidants while you're experiencing, hypnosis or meditation. you're getting boosts of dopamine and endorphins. You're increasing serotonin and melatonin. So there are all these positive things that happen. That's one of the things that I would always hear from people when I was on the cruise ship, because I would pitch to them as an incentive to get them to come on stage. I said, you're going to have one of the best sleeps that you've ever had in your entire life after participating on this tonight. And inevitably, every time I'd say that, you'd always hear the audience, ooh, and people were chattering like, yeah, I need that. And then, of course, because I was on the cruise ships for multiple days, people would come up to me and go, I don't know what you did. I went back to my cabin and I had the best sleep that I ever had of my entire life. And one of the things that I love to share with people, there was a study done, I think about 10 years or so ago, with women that had breast cancer and were going to get a treatment. They broke them up into two groups. One group of women was going to get chemotherapy, and that was it for their treatment. The other group of women was going to get chemotherapy, and they were going to practice daily meditation every day during their chemotherapy. Now, one of the things that we know relative to chemotherapy is that it grounds down the telomeres on our chromosomes. The telomeres are like that little plastic shoelace cap at the end of our shoelaces that keep them from fraying. So radiation, the treatment from chemotherapy, grounds those telomeres down on our chromosomes. And of course, the further down your chromosomes go, that means the closer you are to, age or death or whatever the case may be. So the group of women that did just the chemotherapy alone, as expected, their telomeres were ground down. Group of women that did the chemotherapy plus daily meditation, their chromosomes remained unchanged. So they maintained the length of their chromosomes as a result of doing this daily meditation. So there are these tremendous physical benefits that happen with our body from tapping into that state of mind.
So let's now, we talked about meditation. We talked about the effects of this on our body. Let's talk about the show, man. John, let's talk about the show. What is it like doing a live hypnosis show, and then how does it work? And then what are some of the techniques that you use to get people into hypnosis?
Okay. It's interesting because doing the live show, I mean, I was used to being on stage for 20 some odd years of my life. I'd been in front of, audiences of a few thousand people. I had been on live television in front of literally, the entire world. Never was I as terrified as I was the first time I publicly tried to hypnotize. And it was just a handful of high school kids. The girl I was dating at the time, her daughter brought some friends over, and man, I was terrified. But then all of a sudden you see one person get hypnotized. You're like, wow, this really works. I can see how this is happening. But then you're doing it on a show now in front of a few hundred people in an audience. The funny thing was I got to the point where I was probably more afraid of doing stand-up comedy with it just me and I wound up feeling more comfortable with bringing people up on stage and hypnotizing them, because there's a few factors that you need to keep in mind. Somebody could be a great hypnotist, and I've seen great hypnotists who aren't necessarily great showmen, and then maybe they can hypnotize people, but it's not that interesting of a show, right? So you want to keep people enthused. You want to, first of all, encourage people to come up on stage. That's like the first hurdle that you have to overcome. You stand in front of the audience, you have to give them a reason to come up on stage. And that's my reason, was to let them know that you're going to feel really good physically. You're going to feel really good mentally. You're going to be able to make some positive changes in your life. You're going to be able to achieve some goals. So you're letting people know, hey, if you come up here and participate, you're going to learn to tap into the power of your mind, and it's going to last a lot longer than just you being up on stage. Now, once you get people up on stage, you kind of have to keep moving things along. You could have somebody on stage that really is a great hypnotic subject, but maybe just their personality or whatever, they don't shine. There's not that much, there's not something interesting about it. So you're looking for the people that are legitimately hypnotized, and as well are also interesting performers, if you will, on stage. And sometimes, that there's a person that's up on stage, they're thinking, I'm up here, I'm not hypnotized, but I want to play along because I don't want anybody to feel bad. I look to get rid of those people right away. There's a number of things that I'm doing and looking for those people on stage to make sure somebody's legitimate, or if somebody's just playing along. So you make sure that you have the right combination of people on stage that are experiencing hypnosis, and they're actually, their personalities are allowing them to be able to shine on stage. And I can't tell you how many times, this is why I would love doing corporate events, because I would hear from people time and time again. They're like, now I know this is real because I work next to Bob every single day. And man, there's no way that Bob would fake that. There's like, what I saw up there was like totally mind blowing and believing, because I know that, I know that person. And what's funny about that is, of course, you always encourage people that want to willingly participate, right? I would never, you don't want to force people to come up on stage. I can't tell how many times I've done a corporate event and you call for volunteers and everybody's pointing over at the CEO. Oh, you need to go up there. You need to go up there. And they don't want to go up there, or they are forced to go up there. And then, of course, it doesn't work out because they don't really want to be up there. There is a small exception to that rule. A few years ago, I was doing an event for a county sheriff's department. It was a Christmas event. They had the head jailer. There was a woman. She was the head of their county jail. And they're all like, I don't remember what her name was. Barbara, you need to go up there. And she was this tough woman, right? And she didn't want to go up there, but she was like, fine, I'll go up here. And this is ridiculous. This is, she sits down in her chair and folds her arms. And an hour later, she opens her eyes and was like, what the heck just happened? And everybody's showing the video to her back on her phone. And she's like, I have no idea what the heck just happened. And of course, everybody was like, now we know that was legitimate, because we saw an element to her that we've never seen before, kind of a fun, playful, able to let loose persona. So you do see that. And so it's having those people that are interesting, that are up there on stage. And then, of course, going through the show and making sure it's visually interesting for the audience to watch and entertaining for the audience to watch. Because it's one thing to hypnotize somebody, but it's got to be a visually interesting performance. There's got to be a payoff, for the audience, right? It's like a special effect in a movie can look really wowing, but if it's not within the context of some type of an interesting scene or interesting storyline, then it'll fall flat. So you want to keep that entertainment element there for people.
So you're talking about the payoff for the audience. What's sort of the payoff for the subject? How does hypnosis work to change their thinking and their behavior? Because we have so many behaviors that are out there. I'm working in the school system. We're talking about deviant behavior, disrespectful behavior. We're talking about people who are smoking, people who are using drugs, people who I talked about when we were having our baby, that sort of help with the breathing technique. How does that actually work to change people's thinking and their behavior? And is it consistent? Like when you leave, is that going to maintain itself? Like I just interviewed a gentleman about weight loss, and we talked about The Biggest Loser, and what the research that came out about The Biggest Loser and lottery winners, they always revert back to their behavior. So lottery winners revert back to behavior, lose their money. Not all of them, but many of them.
Right.
Biggest losers, folks who lose all this weight, revert back to their weight, where they were before. So then how is this changing behavior?
So what it does is, one of the things I do when I get people on stage is, let them know if there's a goal that you're looking to achieve, you can achieve that goal. Now we're planting that initial seed for them. We're allowing the person that's on stage to realize I can tap into this part of my mind. I do have this ability. And then it's allowing them to realize a goal that they want to achieve, and then them setting out to achieve it. Now, it's like going to the gym. It's like working out. If you go to you go to the gym one time and lift a few weights, you're not going to be Mr. Olympian, right? You're not going to be able to go. It's a process where you can. It's like working any other muscle in your mind. You're conditioning yourself. Now, what's interesting about, hypnosis is that the fact that you can really fast track the thing that you're looking to do. So, you might have to spend 6 months in the gym to get the body to look the way that you want. But with hypnosis, if you're committing to something every day for a few days, every day for a week, man, you can really initiate that change so much more quickly and so much more rapidly. But yes, it does. It's like they say 21 days, to create a habit. And now there have been people that I've seen that have changed instantaneously. My wife works with people one-on-one. She does all the one-on-one sessions. There's people that she's worked with one session, fantastic. They're exactly where they need to be. Or you know what? It's a few months later and they say, hey, we need to come back for a little bit of a tune-up. Or there's people that maybe it may be a couple of sessions, 3 sessions, 4 sessions. Everybody's unique in their own way. There's no one size fits all. So it is kind of a custom way that you have to work with individuals. But that's why I love being able to put my stuff out there on YouTube, because it's stuff people can go back to every single day. So they always have access to that, to be able to continue to fine tune their mind, continue to, to keep their mind tuned up.
What are some of the prompts that you use? As I was preparing for the show, of course, I thought about these old TV shows with the watch, follow the watch back and forth. I see people snapping their fingers. I think like an I Love Lucy episode where you bark like a dog, or what are some of the prompts that you use when you're engaging individuals?
And if you remember back when I was talking about the guy with the velvet rope, or the critical faculty. So kind of the way that you're distracting that element of the mind and you're getting into the subconscious mind. One of the easiest things to do is a thing called pacing and leading, meaning that you'll make a few comments that the mind is identifying as true. So if I might say, you're sitting there in the chair, you're sitting back, you're hearing the music, you're hearing my voice, and you're allowing yourself to be open to these new, powerful, positive suggestions. So what's happening, the mind there is going, yeah, I'm sitting here in the chair. Yeah, I'm relaxing back. Yeah, I can hear the music. Yeah, I can hear his voice. And then when you stick in the suggestion, as you're allowing yourself to accept these powerful suggestions. So the mind is going, yes, this is true. Yes, this is true. Yes, this is true. Then it hears something that's, not literally true in that moment, but you're creating a suggestion. Then the mind goes, oh, I'm hearing that. Okay, that must be true too. So I'm going to allow myself to accept these empowering, positive suggestions. So that's called pacing and leading. One of the other things that I like to do is kind of a confusion technique, where you throw something out there that the conscious mind goes, wait a minute, what is he talking about? And when the conscious mind gets kind of confused for a moment and is trying to process something, you're able to then throw in a suggestion to the subconscious mind. So I may say something that sounds confusing to the subconscious mind. And sometimes when I'm on stage and I'm saying something, one of the things that I like to do is, I say, I want you to focus on your hand, left or right or wrong. Your conscious mind thinks it knows, or maybe it doesn't. You may focus to the right. That's the hand that's right, or you may focus to the hand that's left. That could be the one that's right for you to allow you to relax. Yeah. People are like, wait, right, wrong. Where am I supposed to be focusing? What? And then, so while that conscious mind is distracted, then you're throwing in, that suggestion that passes the guy with the red velvet rope and gets into the subconscious mind.
So you don't use any watches, snapping your finger. I've seen people like touch your shoulder is heavy, you're unable to raise your hand, or you don't. If I say something to you, you can't remember your name, and you're trying to figure out your name. Those type of things. Yeah,
one of on stage, yes, I'll do snapping the finger, because they call that an anchoring technique, right? So when you tell people sleep, so the subconscious mind is saying, oh, okay, every time I hear that snapping, it means I'm supposed to. My eyes are supposed to be closed. I'm supposed to go back. I'm supposed to relax. Every time I hear that snapping suggestion, that means there's some piece of information that he's saying that I'm accepting as fact. I'm accepting as accurate. So that's just a technique called, anchoring. You're just getting them. They're in that relaxed moment. So when they hear that, they know that's where they're, supposed to be.
So we talk about the benefits from the audience. We talk about the benefits from the person who is the subject. Let's just park and let's just talk about you. Mm-hmm. What's been the greatest and most reassuring discovery you've made about the power of hypnosis? And then what are some of the more profound experiences you've had hypnotizing someone?
Relative first for me is that I noticed, I talked about before when I was doing stand-up comedy, the more dysfunctional my life was, the more entertaining, the more fodder I had for jokes, to make fun of on stage. And it was a case for me where, about 12 years ago, I had gone through a divorce. I was, a single parent, I had 2 boys. and the stand-up comedy market was changing, and for me I was really in kind of a dark unhappy place, dysfunctional relationships with the women that I was dating, and not really knowing where the future was going to go for me personally and professionally. And I was an incredibly an unhappy person with really no vision of the future and no vision for myself. And as I discovered that, there's no out there, right? It's all what's in here. Once I realized that if I could change up my thinking in here, if I could change my conditioning in here, then you change your thoughts, you change your patterns, you change your emotions, and then your outer world becomes a reflection of what's in here. So as I did that, I realized, man, drama and dysfunction weren't something for me. They weren't for my benefit. So, I was able to realize, I was able to think differently. I was able to think more empoweredly. I wasn't freaking out about things that I wasn't looking for what was wrong. I was focusing on what was right. And then I was building upon what was right in addition to that. And consequently, not only did my professional life take off, because now I was able to go and do a stage hypnosis show that was, more profitable than anything that I had ever done. I wound up loving myself, respecting myself as an individual. And I wound up attracting somebody who loved themselves and respect themselves. And I wound up, my wife, Rochelle, and I were coming up on 6 years of marriage. We've been together, I think, for almost 12 years, but I always say she's as beautiful and brilliant together. She's former Mrs. Utah, first runner-up Mrs. America, but she is just the most kind, down-to-earth, loving individual and just off the charts brilliant. She started doing hypnosis after we got together. She saw what I was doing, and we had a lot of the similar thoughts about, the mind and all of this. And she said, that's something I want to be able to do too. She went and certified, in hypnosis. We both went through a certification program with the National Guild of Hypnotists.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if someone is interested. Now, are you, with that certification, are you able to train others, or people need to go through to get the certification?
What the certification does for me allows me to have the tools and the knowledge and the ability to work with people in a one-on-one setting. Then there's if somebody wants to go on and train other people, there's another certification, above and beyond that. But I went through that process just so I could have the opportunity to gain some more knowledge and some more insight on how to work with people one-on-one.
Well, I love to hear the love that you have for your partner. I love to hear that you're doing well, and that she's doing the exact same thing. So I heard you just say, outside of doing stand-up and the videos and performing, when you say you do one-on-one, explain to my audience what that means, one-on-one. So if people want to see you perform, go onto the websites, YouTube, when you're doing the one-on-one, what is that like?
That's sitting down with somebody one-on-one. Right. And that's exactly what it's a one-on-one session where you're able to really kind of deep dive into, the individual, their experiences and what's going on. If you think about it, when I'm up on stage working with a group of people, especially if I'm on a cruise ship, I've got about 5 minutes or so to be able to get people into that trance. So it really is kind of, you got to go from this one size fits all model. Now, when you're working with somebody one-on-one, you actually have the opportunity to create that feedback loop where you're able to see specifically kind of how the person thinks, how the person's mind operates. So you can really custom cater the hypnosis experience to get them where they deserve to be. You're able to take more time for that. And then you're also able to take more time to be able to explore those areas, the techniques that are going to have that person be able to make the changes that they deserve to make. When I do my YouTube channel, one of the things is I realize I've got everybody listening. So it's not going to be that interactive like that one-on-one experience. I can't ask questions. I can't have a feedback loop, if you will. And that's one of the things, I call it giving homework, right? When you're hypnotizing somebody, you're going to give them homework. And what I mean by giving them homework, it means it's like, okay, well, where do you see yourself now? Okay. Are you able to see yourself doing X, Y, and Z? And what is that experience like? You're walking the person through a process where they're kind of communicating and talking, and they're having to think about specific things. So when I do a program on YouTube, it's a case where I'm not giving people homework. They're just listening. But working with people one-on-one, that's exactly what it is. It's just a customized experience catered to that individual's needs, preferences, and how their mind operates.
So there you have it, Sound Bombers. I have my man John Moyer on here. We're gonna leave some clips so you can check out what he's doing. But before you leave, John, we have to do our Super Bomb questions, which is brought to us by Mountain Mate. However, I want you to leave our audience with just some of your final thoughts, and how can they get in contact with you if they want to do a one-on-one, if they want to come to a show, and or if they want to book you. Are you doing shows virtually as well, or are you only doing face-to-face?
I'm not doing shows virtually. What I have been doing, it's interesting. I have not done a live show since the beginning of last year. Now, as things are kind of resuming and getting back to normal, I'm beginning to get, offers and, requests for shows. But I've been loving putting the time that I have put into my YouTube channel. And everybody can find me. If you just go to YouTube, you look up John Moyer Hypnosis, you'll find me right there. I'm just about to hit 200,000 subscribers. So if your listeners, can go and smash that like button and smash the subscribe button. I've been putting videos on YouTube specifically for people to listen to at home, to be able to tap into whatever they're looking to tap into. But they can find me there on YouTube. They can also find me through my website, johnmoyer.com. There's more information about me there. There's more information about my shows there. There's more information about, what I do relative to hypnosis as a modality for positive change.
John, I know you do these live shows, and I know you are hypnotizing people in front of a live studio audience. Has any of the shows gone awry, in a direction that you did not want it to go in, and you were not prepared for it to go that way? And if so, how did you sort of shift the gears in your performance?
That's a really good question. The answer, the kind of analogy that I have used in the past was, there are sometimes the mark of a truly good hypnotist is not, can he keep the show from going off the rails, but just how far can he keep the show from going off the rails? So, and it's funny because sometimes I'll hear from people, well, what do you do if nobody volunteers? I'm like, that's never, ever happened. And especially with corporate events, they're like, well, okay, well, we've talked to a lot of people. There's people that don't say that they want to volunteer. We're prepared. We've got cash as Christmas presents. We'll start to dole out for people to volunteer. I go, you're not going to need to do that. I've never had a problem with ever volunteering. Sometimes you will have an issue with, audiences not being respectful. Sometimes you might have an issue with people on stage not being as energetic, or they don't have as strong personalities that would really stand out. Now, I've done shows where I have had 30 people on stage, and all 30 people were just like these amazing, outgoing, energetic personalities. Of course, that's a lot like wrangling kittens, on stage. And then I've had shows where maybe two people on stage. And of course, that was typically a smaller audience that I might have that. But man, those people, there's just something entertaining. There's something about them. They're able to carry that show. And I've had, times where I've had 10 people on stage and they're just not that interesting, or the audience just isn't that engaged. So, it's just a case of just making sure you go, okay, I know the show's going off the rails, but I just got to keep it from going off the rails as far as possible.
Do you have a favorite subject that you had on stage, without saying the person's name, that was just memorable in working with him or her?
Well, I can think of one in particular person, and it was one in particular experience. I had a medical doctor on stage, and I told her that her belly button was missing. And it was an interesting exercise to kind of show how the mind can kind of fight against itself. So here's this medical doctor getting up, looking around the stage, looking under chairs, looking behind people, asking people if she had lost her belly button. But then I'm going, what's going on? She goes, I lost my belly button. She goes, but I'm a medical doctor. This is impossible. I know that this is physically impossible, but I've lost my belly button. And you could see that logical part of her mind, that judgmental part of the mind, the conscious part of the mind was fighting, because the programming of the subconscious mind was saying, this is real. You've really lost, your belly button. So she's looking around for it. And I love that example, because it's like you took somebody and you kind of rewired for this experience, rewired their mind temporarily, and they were acting upon that new programming that was instilled into their mind. But how many times do we in our life believe something in our mind subconsciously that's not real and it's not empowering, right? So, it's like they say, fear is false evidence appearing real. That's one of the things about the subconscious mind. If we get a belief in there, subconscious mind is going to go, this is real, so we're going to act accordingly. So when you change up that thinking, you can give the subconscious mind a suggestion that says, this is real, so we're going to act accordingly. And that's why you want it to be an empowering suggestion.
So what are the prompts to get this woman who's a medical doctor to believe that she lost her belly button? Like, what would you say to her?
This was a case where this was probably halfway through the show. So we were well into the show. And one of the thing about doing a hypnosis show, it's like, the further along you go during the show, the more heavy lifting, as I say, the volunteers are able to do, because they're in a lighter trance at the beginning of the show. But then as you go on, they're getting deeper, they're going deeper, and they're getting more conditioned to follow along with the things that I'm saying. So for this woman, it was literally just a case where in the middle of the show, I put my hand on her shoulder, said to the person I'm touching right now, as soon as you open up your eyes, you will think your belly button is missing. You want to find your belly button, and you need your belly button back, and you will look for your belly button. And that's all I had to say. As soon as she opened up her eyes, I was going about doing something else on stage. I was talking to somebody else, with somebody else. And then you're hearing people laughing. And then all of a sudden you're looking over, and I go over to this woman. What's going on? She's like, I've lost my belly button. It's impossible, but I've lost my belly button. So that's kind of how it went down.
That's a great story. Great way to wrap up that section. The second part of the show is called the Super Bomb Questions, brought to you by Mountain Made. The difference from the first part is that these questions are going to be asked quickly, and we need you to respond as rapidly as possible. But you already ready, Brother John. You ready? Let's go.
Let's go.
What's your favorite word?
My favorite word is preference, meaning I tell people not what you want, it's what you prefer. Because when we say we want something, it keeps us stuck in a state of want. When we say we prefer something, the mind operates very differently to sustain us in that state that we prefer.
I like that. What's your favorite quote?
My favorite quote is, ooh, man, that is a good one. Now you really put me on the spot. My favorite quote is just whatever it is you believe you can achieve.
What's your superpower?
My superpower is tapping into the power of my own mind to be able to make a difference for myself so I can help make a difference for other people.
What's your spirit animal?
Ooh, my spirit animal. That's a good question. I don't know that I know what my spirit animal is. I just know that I am a Taurus relative to my astrology sign, which is what my wife asked me when we first met. What is your birthday? I told her May 1st, and she said, May 1st, why is my phone number not in your phone? So that was that was an important thing to my wife.
Taurus the bull. What moves you to tears of joy, and what moves you to tears of sorrow?
Moves me to tears of joy is experiencing people come into the knowledge of their power and achieving their goals. It's just seeing people realize their potential and living their potential. That happens all the time. I hear from people constantly on my YouTube channel, comments, emails, when they share their experience. That moves me to tears of joy. What moves me to tears of sorrow is I look around at the world as a whole, and I don't feel that the existential threat to humanity is something that's out there relative to like nuclear war or whatever. The existential threat to humanity is inside of ourselves, not being in touch with our humanity, not being in touch with our spirit, our just ourselves, and being able to connect with other people, relative to all of us being in this together, humanely and as part of humanity.
What do you wish you had more time to do?
More time to do. I've gotten a lot back into to reading. I wish, and it's always, to me, that's kind of a loaded question because I could always make more time for that. So, and I actually have been. I have said I wish I could make more time for reading. So what I'm finding now is when I have a moment to spare, if I'm standing in line at a grocery store someplace, I'm not staring at my phone looking at social media. I'm actually, there's books that I've been reading that I've just downloaded to my phone and reading on my phone.
Great transition to the next question. Then what is the book or books you've given most as a gift and why?
Any book by Joe Dispenza is a fantastic book.
Oh, I love Joe.
Yes. You Are the Placebo is one of his great books that talked. And that was one of the things that really inspired me. So anything by Joe Dispenza is a fantastic book. I'm also reading a really interesting book now by Ian Gilchrist, and it's about the left brain and the right brain. It's about the two hemispheres of the brain and how they operate so differently. But how we need them to both work harmoniously together. And if we go one way or the other, how that can throw things out of balance. So The Emissary and His Master, that's a book by Ian Gilchrist about the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere of the brain. Fascinating book that really gives us some insight into the mind. What's
a ritual you do to help you connect with your inner power?
Meditation every day, at least once a day. I work to be able to spend that time, in the morning, but definitely at night, especially during the warm weather. My wife and I like to go out into the backyard. We ground, we connect with the earth, and we do our meditation out there under the stars before we go to bed.
Final question, John. If you were in a Mr. America talent competition, what would your talent be?
My talent would be, I'm getting a phone call that I have to go. My talent would be communication. That's something that I'm able to do. I'm able to talk to people.
Well, John Moyer, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you. I learned so much about hypnosis, and I'm sure my listeners learned quite a bit. I want to encourage you, check out his YouTube channel, check out his shows if it's coming to a town near you, but then also book him for your shows again, because if you look at these videos, you'll see they're very entertaining, very engaging, and they're also life-changing. So, John, I appreciate you hanging out with me today.
Thank you, Dr. Shields. I appreciate it. It's been a really great experience.
And I also want to thank my amazing engineer, Alexander Blanc, my super-duper producer, Nicole Klempaka. I cannot do this without you. Supremacy for our theme music, and all of you for listening. Now, I want you to subscribe to the show, leave a comment, stop being stingy, and share me with all of your friends. You can go to soundbombing.com. And if you want to know more about me, you go to DrDRLDS.com, DrDRLDS.com. Leave a comment. Let us know what you're listening to. Let us know what you think about the show. But then also do something wonderful. If you do something for someone else, something wonderful is going to happen to you because you've been listening to Sound Bombing. Peace.
The Super Bomb questions are brought to you by Mountain Made CBD. Mountain Made is changing the CBD game by offering a line of high-dose CBD tablets at an affordable price. Their products are THC-free and third-party tested for accuracy, cleanliness, and potency. Their products, which ship nationwide, include Build for CBD saturation, Boost for precision titration, and Recover for rest and rehab. With 9 years experience in hemp and fitness, Mountain Made's founders are focused on creating a quality product to help those who live an activated lifestyle. Check out mountainmade.life. Again, that's mountainmade.life to find out more about how their products can help you crush life. Remember, their products ship nationwide. Go check out their website today and follow them on social media at Mountain Made. That's the @ MNTMADE. Our staff at Sound Bombing uses Build before a morning workout, which helps to push our bodies to a whole new level on a daily basis. Try Build, try Boost, try Recover. Our staff is using these products to enhance our active lifestyle naturally, and we are crushing life with Mountain Made CBD. And you can too. Start today by going to mountainmade.life and ordering Build, Boost, Recover, or the multitude of other products that they have which will enhance your lifestyle. I promise you, you won't regret it.